I'm going to talk about how cutting holes in your car can give you more downforce. This video is packed with a lot of dense information on how to make downforce. I'm not just talking about wings and splitters, I'm going to talk about at least 8 different items that you can use to gain extra downforce. It's also pretty applicable to any car. For those of you who are following the build, I want to say thanks. This might be my last video on the Corvette specifically because I already sold it. If you haven't been following the build up until now, please like and subscribe. And as always, the build sheet can be found at trackdatediaries.com/build. Let's get into it. Welcome to Track Date Diaries, where I make expensive mistakes so you don't have to. I'm also going to talk about why I chose the path that I chose and what I would do if I wanted even more downforce. Okay, so let's start off with splitter end plates. Splitter end plates, you can see here all of these guys. So this is what your splitter looks like without end plates, and the air kind of just spills over, right? You want to prevent that, and so you put a big fence or end plate over here. I went through several iterations of mine. My advice is do not use PLA. Of course, you know that. In this case, I think I printed it with maybe carbon PETG, and then I did like carbon nylon here. I made it thicker, I made it stronger. I took away a lot of like the random stuff that I put in here, which, you know, may or may not have made more downforce, but it doesn't really matter because I didn't really know if it did. And you can kind of see that it is used in F1 cars. It's used in race cars, and it's free downforce. Well, next thing is going to be your canards. Canards are also pretty prevalent in race cars. You can see these guys over here. This is not a video that, you know, explains exactly how aero works. So the primary purpose of canards are to take a lot of this air here and to kind of just send it out or to extract it from here, because there's going to be a lot of rough air buildup here. And you can see, you know, more downforce providing techniques, especially for the front, are these vents over here, which let you extract even more of that air out of the wheel well. You're not necessarily getting a lot of downforce using these methods. However, every bit helps. And in this case, you are just reducing lift in the front. And then you can see the same thing here is happening. This is like another technique you can use to get more front downforce. It's kind of hard to do on the C8. I wouldn't say I tried a lot. And even if you can do it on the C8s, you don't really get a lot. You don't get like anywhere near this much downforce. So you see here, when you don't have brake duct blockers, you have like these holes and it kind of just lets the air through, obviously to cool your brakes, which you also need. But if you were to put brake duct blockers there, you are going to get more downforce, which is fantastic because we all like downforce, right? More high pressure on the top and you give yourself more downforce. Okay, so the next one I'm going to talk about is splitter tunnels. Tunnels are pretty common. I think this is AJ Hartman's video. You can see it has these fancy carbon fiber tunnels. You can put your fancy carbon fiber tunnels on your C8 as well. However, you're in for some bad news because it's not really going to fit. You can really fit I guess you can't really fit a lot of big tunnels in the C8s because it's just a very tightly packed area. This is what I could manage. You can see the green is kind of like my wish list, and then the black is reality. So here are more pictures of what that looks like, and here as well. Okay, so let's move on to the next item. This is going to be a super secret, you know, like I'm trying to extract the most possible amount of downforce from the front as possible. So I did talk about the splitter before and how it's curved over here. So you see that this edge right here is very thin compared to all the way over there, which is kind of a lot thicker. So that helps with having your air speed up over here. Now, I thought I could use this to my advantage and get even more air through the car and give you more downforce because, you know, the faster the air going under the splitter, the more downforce you make. So these cars have tunnels. This is a tunnel over here in the Grand Sport X. It has batteries or the E-Ray, whatever they call it. This is what it looks like in the Stingray. And so there's a couple of ideas here. One is you can put a diffuser here, which extracts even more underbody downforce. So you can see my process of testing to see if it actually worked versus to build model, in the first place. So you scan it, you build it. One of the issues that I found was that this crossbar or this subframe bar, whatever this is just in the way of what would normally be a really smooth and shallow angle. So, yep, that sucks. You can kind of see it here too. But did a lot of testing. I literally cut a hole in the underside of my plastic. I have replaced it, so don't worry. You can see I'm doing more testing here. This is I forgot what the technical name is, but it takes air pressure measurements, magnetometer or something like that. I don't know. I'm trying to test to see if the pressure actually changed at all, and it was inconclusive. However, I will say though that I did use video, and you can see like these are my results. I ended up, you can see like it's not like the flow is laminar or anything like that, but the strings are pointing inwards. So one of the other things that I did was I used vortex generators, which was inspired by this guy over here, which lets you attach more air with steeper angles. And I can say that the vortex generators did in fact help. Now, did this give me a lot of downforce? I don't know. I don't think so. But every bit helps, right? I'm just talking about ideas here. You can go do whatever you want with your time, money, and filament. I think that's one of like the coolest innovations, I would call it, that I did myself. This is fun project, even though it may not have changed the game downforce wise. But I think it does somewhat justify the really not shallow wing angle that I have here. Another way to make front downforce is to use strakes. The Z06 uses this. While I believe it reduces the amount of air that goes under your car because it's directing air out that way, that's one way the strakes give you more downforce. Now the second thing that it's doing is that it's doing the job of the canards as well. Whenever you have a sharp object, you tend to create vortices. Endplates, strakes, and all these things tend to create vortices at the tip. So this is 3D printed. You can probably just either make one yourself, get the STL and print it, or buy one from Paragon Performance. Or me, because I made this one myself. And this is one of the images that kind of show what happens with the underside interacting with the car. You can see that it's just very, very splattered here, and you can see that the water here is just going everywhere. So canards help with this. If you can fit fender vents here, it's going to help with that too. And then the next thing that does help with it is the next one are side skirt. They look like they don't do much, but they keep the air under the car flowing cleanly, and they stop interference from the turbulent parts of the car. Essentially just extend how flat and big and wide your underbody is under the car. So here we have no side skirts, and you can see kind of what happens when you don't have side skirts is that these lines can go under the car, as like that one is doing right there. And when it goes under the car, it disturbs the flow under the car. So the underneath of your car makes a lot of downforce, and you kind of just want to keep it as clean as possible. All right, so let's go to the back. We have the diffuser. Maybe I have a better picture of this. And it's really important that your car is raked to be, to make more downforce, because the underbody makes a lot of downforce too, and so you want to ensure that your car is lower on the front. So a couple of things that I like about the diffuser specifically would be, it just looks cool. The shape is cool. It's made of carbon fiber, so it's pretty light, but the shape is just so cool. And then it's extremely functional. I think unless you wanted to remove your exhaust, you pretty much have not a lot of space to do anything else. So what these guys did is they have a very steep angle of attack here. You would usually have separation because of the steep angle of attack. However, they are trying to get it back, at least, using these vortex generators. And the vortex generators, they work. And how do I know that they work? Well, you can see that the pattern here is very telling. You can see the direction of air, or the dust is definitely getting up there. It's getting up there. The other thing I noticed is that they recessed all the holes, which is great because you don't want further separation because you have like a bolt sticking out. So that's something that the Corvette departments did not get the memo about. While they did try their best to make the underside really flat, what is this? You know, like, what are all these bolts and why are they here? So this is something I've seen like the Porsches do a lot better job of, just making the underside very, very flat. So generally speaking, it's a lot easier to make rear downforce than it is to make front downforce. And so you can just slap on a bigger wing, and that's exactly what I did. Slapping on a bigger wing is one way to go about it, but you can still make more downforce by slapping on a bigger end plate, which is what I did here as well. And then maybe final way to make downforce is using a Gurney flap. So this is a Gurney flap. It's hard, you can hardly see it, but here's a better picture of the Gurney flap. Now, Gurney flaps come in different sizes, you know, as much, you have like different amounts of stick out. And the bigger the stick outs, the more downforce you might make if you have a steeper angle. You're not supposed to really use Gurney flaps in all instances. So I would encourage you to go read all about that if you really care about Gurney flaps. Okay, so I think this is pretty much what the final form of the car looked like before I sold it. You can see we have basically everything here. I really didn't want to drill into the body as much as I could, you know, so I think the Canards are like the only thing that I really had to modify the body for. If I wanted extra downforce, I'd have put fender vents here, and then I would have rounded up the fender over here. So that's the last 10%. The big parts make a lot of downforce that can give you seconds. The small parts make a little downforce that can give you tenths. I would have done the tunnel downforce thing for more downforce. And at that point, it's just bigger splitter, bigger wing. Not really sure what else you can do. But yes, thanks for sticking to the end. And thanks for following the car's build up until now. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments below. And question for you is, have you done anything for cheap that has netted you a lot of downforce?